I never thought my life would become one of those stories people whisper about over drinks, the kind that starts with "he never saw it coming" but ends with everyone nodding like they did. But if I'm being honest, maybe I did see it coming. I just didn't want to admit it. My name's Ethan Blake. I'm 41 years old, father to none, husband to Kendra Blake, at least, I was. We live in a peaceful little suburb just outside Savannah, Georgia. Quiet streets, good neighbors, the kind of place where change comes slow and people plant azaleas like it's a personality trait. It's the kind of town where marriages last not because they're perfect, but because people don't talk about the cracks. Our house was brick, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a backyard big enough to pretend we'd one day get a dog. We never did. Kendra wasn't much for messes. Kendra and I had been married for 14 years. Long enough to finish each other's sentences but also long enough to resent them. We weren't unhappy, not really. But we weren't much of anything anymore. Comfortable, maybe? And I thought comfortable was enough. Until it wasn't. The unraveling began on a Sunday night in early March. She'd just flown back from a Bachelorette weekend in Miami. Brooke, her best friend from college, was getting married for the second time, and this was the big redo. Bigger dresses, bigger drama, and apparently bigger secrets. I had the house cleaned top to bottom that weekend. Partly out of habit, partly because something in my gut felt uneasy. Not dread, exactly. Just that low buzz of intuition, like the static that comes before a thunderstorm. She came through the door at exactly 10:06 p.m., rolling a bright silver suitcase behind her. I was already sitting on the couch in the living room, a single lamp casting long shadows across the floor. The envelope with her name on it, Kendra in all caps, sat on the coffee table, just barely within reach. She stopped the second she saw me. Not because she was surprised I was awake, no, she was expecting that. It was the envelope. Her eyes locked onto it like it might explode. She stood frozen in the doorway, purse still slung over her shoulder, keys dangling from her fingers. "Hey," she said, her voice bright and brittle. "Didn't think you'd still be up." "I figured I'd wait," I said. My voice was calm. Not cold. Just tired. She gave a tight smile, the kind that pulled at the corners but didn't touch her eyes. Then she laughed too quickly. "Oh my God, Miami was insane," she said, stepping inside. She dropped her suitcase with a thud that echoed down the hallway. I lost my charger like the second day. Brooke got so wasted she thought the hotel manager was in the band. And Dre, this guy Dre, you know, friend of the bride, he was hitting on everyone. Like, full on, "What's your sign?" level cheesy. Even me. But I shut that down immediately. Total creep. I didn't say anything. She kept going. Nervous energy poured off her in waves. She talked about the heat, about their suite, about how her friend Jenna got food poisoning from ceviche. Every detail was delivered like a script she'd memorized on the flight home. I watched her talk, nodding slightly. My hands were clasped in my lap. I wasn't looking for a fight, I just wanted the truth. Or at least, some version of it. Finally, she stopped. Her eyes flicked again to the envelope. "What's that?" she asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "Something I want you to read," I replied. There was a long pause. She didn't move. Didn't reach for it. "You okay?" she asked, her voice dipping just slightly. "I will be." She tried to laugh again, but it came out like a cough. "You're being dramatic, babe. What's going on?" I didn't answer. I leaned forward slightly and tapped the envelope with my finger. She sat down slowly across from me on the other side of the coffee table. Her purse remained on her shoulder like she didn't trust the room enough to stay long. She picked up the envelope but didn't open it. "What is this?" she asked again, quieter this time. "Just read it when you're ready." She didn't like that. Kendra never liked delayed answers. She wanted clean lines, bullet points, outlines with headers. So she did what she always did when she felt the walls closing in. She tried to control the air between us. "I don't know what you think happened in Miami," she said, her tone suddenly sharper. "But nothing did. I went there to support my friend. Yeah, we drank. Yeah, we danced. But I'm a married woman. You think I forgot that just because I crossed a state line?" I didn't say a word. She looked at me like she wanted me to react, to interrupt, to argue. But I didn't give her that. "Seriously, Ethan," she said, her voice rising just enough. "I don't deserve to be treated like this. You've been weird for weeks. Is this about those stupid text messages again? The ones from 2 months ago? I told you that was work-related. You're reading into everything." I tilted my head. "You brought up Dre before I asked anything," I said. "You told me about shutting him down immediately. That's how you led." She blinked, caught off guard. So, I said carefully, when people lie, they tend to answer questions that haven't been asked. It's a way of trying to get ahead of the narrative. She opened her mouth, closed it, then stood up and slung her purse off her shoulder. She was angry now. Good. Anger was easier than guilt. This is insane, she said. I come home from a weekend away and you're sitting here like some judge and jury. What, you've been watching too many true crime shows while I was gone? I didn't move. Kendra, I said, you're not on trial. But something's been off for a long time now. And we both know it. That stopped her. She sat back down slowly, her hands fidgeting with the edge of the envelope. For the first time that night, she looked genuinely tired. What do you think is in here? She asked, tapping the paper. Honestly, I shrugged. Just some things I've noticed. Things I've been holding in. Like what? Like the way your phone's always face down now, I said. How you step outside to take calls. How girls' night always runs past midnight and how you come home looking like you reapplied makeup you didn't leave the house in. Like how you talk about alignment and energy and vibrations more than you talk to me. She looked down, her jaw tense. I wrote a letter, I said. In there. Just my side of things. What I've seen. What I'm feeling. You wrote me a letter, she repeated like it was a foreign concept. Yeah. I figured you'd interrupt me too much if I tried to say it out loud. She didn't argue that. She just looked at the envelope again, then back at me. I didn't cheat on you, Ethan, she said. I swear to God. I nodded. Okay. That's all I said. Just okay. Because I wasn't sure I believed her. And I wasn't sure I didn't. She didn't open the letter that night. She went upstairs, suitcase abandoned, the envelope still in her hand. I sat on the couch for a long time after that. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the ceiling fan and the occasional creak of the stairs as she moved around above me. Maybe nothing had happened in Miami. Maybe Dre was just some forgettable guy with a fake watch and too much cologne. But something had happened. Maybe not in a hotel room. Maybe just in her mind. But that was enough. Because once a person starts practicing their alibis before anyone's asked the question, the trust doesn't break all at once, it dissolves. Quietly. Like sugar in warm tea. And that night, it was already gone. I wish I could tell you the night she came back from Miami was when everything fell apart. But it wasn't. It was just the night I stopped pretending everything was okay. The truth is, the signs were there for months. Not loud, not dramatic, just subtle shifts that stacked on top of each other until the foundation started to crack. It started with her routines. Kendra used to be a night owl. She'd watch late-night reruns in bed, scrolling Pinterest boards and texting her sisters. But one morning, out of nowhere, she was up before dawn. I remember the first time clearly. I heard the creak of the stairs around 5:45 a.m., and by the time I got out of bed at 7, she was already showered, dressed in high-end workout gear, and sipping something green from a glass bottle. Yoga, she said cheerfully, unprompted. There's the 6 a.m. class now. Brooke swears by it. She beamed like she'd found the answer to life's deepest mystery. I was still half asleep, rubbing my eyes and wondering who this woman was. That was the beginning of her transformation, though she never called it that. She called it leveling up. First came the diet, no more dairy, no more red meat, no more coffee unless it was alkalized. Then the books started showing up, Atomic Habits, The Untethered Soul, You Are a Badass at Making Money. Books with neon covers and buzzwords that sounded like they were written by someone trying to trademark inner peace. Then came the retreats. It was Brooke again. Always Brooke. She was the gateway to this new world Kendra had stumbled into, a world full of growth mindsets and abundance energy. The first retreat was in Asheville, then another in Scottsdale. All women, all weekend, all in matching robes holding kombucha and journaling like it was oxygen. I wanted to be supportive. I did. If she was finding herself, I didn't want to be the guy standing in the way. But it wasn't just about personal growth, it was about distance. And that distance kept growing. One day, she came home with a new phone. Business reasons, she said, smiling over the top of her screen. I'm building something. It's early, but I'll tell you soon. She didn't tell me. That second phone became like a shadow in the house. She kept it close, always face down, always locked. Sometimes I'd walk into a room and she'd swipe away whatever was on the screen like it was muscle memory. I asked about it once. It's private, she said. You don't go through my journal, do you? No, I replied. But I don't carry my journal into the bathroom with me either. That didn't land well. She rolled her eyes and muttered something about me not understanding boundaries. Girls' nights became more frequent too. What used to be once every couple months turned into weekly alignment dinners. I'd ask where they were going and she'd say, somewhere new. Like that was supposed to be an answer. She came home later and later. One night, I was still awake when she slipped in around 1:30 a.m. Her heels clicked too loudly on the floor. I noticed she was wearing heavier makeup than when she'd left. Lipstick still fresh. Her perfume lingered in the air. Something new. Spicier than her usual scent. "You okay?" I asked, not unkindly. She jumped. "God, Ethan, you scared me. You weren't expecting me to be up?" "I just figured you'd be asleep," she said quickly. Then added, "It was Brooke's place. We drank wine, passed out on the couch. No big deal." She smiled again. That same wide smile from the night she came back from Miami. The one that was more mask than expression. I nodded, said nothing. The next morning, she was up before me, as if nothing happened. Cooking eggs, humming some playlist that sounded like background music for an Instagram ad. Later that week, I found one of her notebooks left open on the kitchen table. It was filled with affirmations written in looping cursive. "I deserve expansion. I am not afraid to outgrow people who stay stagnant. Love is a vibration, not an obligation." I stood there for a while, staring at that last one. Love is not an obligation. It echoed in my head, louder than anything she'd said out loud in weeks. Something had shifted. Not just in her schedule, not just in her routines, in her language. The way she talked about our marriage changed too. It was less we and more I. Less our plans and more my path. She stopped asking what I wanted to do on weekends. Stopped making plans for holidays. Stopped talking about kids entirely. And the most unnerving thing? She didn't seem unhappy. She seemed light, almost euphoric. As if she'd quietly climbed out of our life and left behind a version of herself I was still trying to talk to. One Saturday afternoon, I asked if she wanted to go out for lunch. Just the two of us, like we used to. Her response caught me completely off guard. "I already ate," she said, not even looking up from her laptop. "Plus, I'm editing a video. My brand is launching Monday." I blinked. "Your what?" "My brand," she repeated. "Kendra Blake. I'm starting a channel, a newsletter, personal empowerment, self-healing, nervous system regulation. All that." I nodded slowly. "When were you gonna tell me?" "I just did," she said with a smile, as if that settled it. I didn't argue. I just sat there watching her outline some color-coded content calendar. It hit me right then. She wasn't hiding this new version of herself. She was proud of it. Proud in a way that left no room for us. No room for the guy she used to wake up next to with morning breath and bad jokes. The guy who held her hair when she had food poisoning in Tulum. The guy who used to be her entire world. Now she had a platform. Her phone buzzed again. A notification. She turned it face down. "Who's that?" I asked. "Just someone from the seminar," she said, then quickly added, "One of the coaches. They're helping me prep my rollout." Rollout. Like this was a product launch. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing, steady and soft beside me, like nothing was wrong. But something was. Something had changed, not overnight but piece by piece. And I had let it happen. I had convinced myself it was just a phase, that it was growing pains, not erosion. But now I wasn't so sure, because love doesn't usually need rebranding. And marriage, real marriage, doesn't hide behind alignment buzzwords and journaling prompts. Something was coming. I could feel it, like the moment before a wave crests. You can't stop it, but you know when it hits, it's gonna break everything wide open. The moment it turned from emotional erosion to something mechanical happened on a Sunday morning. It was raining. Not hard, just that kind of soft Georgia drizzle that makes the windows fog up and the whole house feel heavier. I just made coffee. French press. Our old weekend ritual. I was sitting at the kitchen table, still in sweatpants, flipping through the local paper like some relic from the past. Kendra came down in a matching beige athleisure set, her hair twisted into a bun that was just messy enough to look deliberate. She didn't greet me with a kiss or even a good morning. She sat down across from me, opened her laptop, and asked if I had 15 minutes for something important. The way she said it sounded like we were in a quarterly check-in. I figured it was about her brand, maybe a pitch or some new affiliate deal she wanted to run by me. So I said yeah. She turned the screen toward me and smiled, not warmly but like someone proud of a project they knew would win them points. And then I saw it. A Google document titled Relationship Structure Proposal Q2 and Beyond. I blinked. What is this? A framework, she said, as if that should be self-explanatory. I've been thinking about how we relate to each other, and I think it's time we redefine some of the parameters. Parameters, I repeated. My stomach tightened. Just read through it, she said. I think you'll appreciate the clarity. I scanned the first few bullet points. Co-managed domestic energy model. In * Macy scheduling guidelines. Emotional bandwidth allocation weekdays versus weekends. Mutual autonomy in personal development paths. Non-reactive communication strategy, NRCS. Kendra, what is this? She leaned back, sipping from her matcha cup. We've outgrown the old model, Ethan. Marriage, as it was traditionally designed, doesn't support who we're becoming. This isn't about you or me being wrong, it's about aligning. Aligning. That word again. It was like a buzzword she'd tattooed onto every part of her identity. I'm not running a startup, I said, still trying to keep my tone calm. This is a marriage. We're not co-founders pitching synergy. She didn't even flinch. That's exactly the point, she said. This shouldn't be about outdated labels. It should be about supporting each other's trajectories. Okay, I said slowly, tapping one of the bullet points. Explain this one. In * Macy scheduling guidelines. She smiled like I had asked the perfect question. It's simple, she said. We've both been busy. Our connection has been inconsistent. By scheduling in * Macy, we take the pressure off spontaneity and ensure equitable attention to that part of our relationship. Equitable attention, I echoed. You're proposing we make love on a Google Calendar? She gave a small, practiced laugh. Don't be reductive. This is about intentionality. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I took a long sip of coffee and stared at the woman across from me, the woman I had married over a decade ago. The woman who used to text me lyrics from sad songs she'd hear in the car. The woman who once cried when I surprised her with a picnic because she thought no one ever saw her. Now she was managing our emotional bandwidth like it was an app. I looked again at the document. There were color-coded sections, subheadings with time estimates, even optional KPIs. She had literally mapped out our marriage like it was a quarterly business plan. She leaned forward slightly, sensing my hesitation. I know this is new, she said gently, but we've both changed. I'm building something that matters and I want you in it. But that means we have to restructure how we function. Restructure. Not reconnect. Not repair. Restructure. Kendra, I said finally, do you even hear yourself? You're not talking about a relationship. You're talking about a merger. She blinked. I'm talking about evolving with intention. I stood up then, not angrily. Just hollowed out. I walked to the sink, rinsed out my cup, and stared out the window at the rain pooling in the driveway. You didn't ask how I feel about any of this, I said quietly. She didn't respond right away. I assumed you'd be open to progress, she said finally. You always said communication was key. I turned back toward her. This isn't communication, Kendra. It's choreography. It's a scripted performance where you already know the ending and you're just waiting for me to sign on the dotted line. Her face stiffened just slightly. Then she closed the laptop and stood up. I think you're being reactive, she said, which I'd noticed had become her new way of saying you're being inconvenient. I didn't argue. I just nodded. Later that night, I sat in the bedroom while she worked in the office down the hall. I could hear the soft tapping of her keys, the occasional hum of her Focus playlist. On the dresser was a framed photo from our honeymoon, some island I can't even remember the name of now. We were on a boat, sunburnt and laughing, hair tangled from the wind. She had her legs wrapped around mine, barefoot, a beer in one hand. That woman was unrecognizable now. It wasn't just her hair or the clothes or the routines, it was her language. She no longer asked me if I was okay. She asked if I was resisting discomfort. She didn't apologize, she acknowledged impact. She didn't say, I love you anymore. She said, I see you. I don't think she saw me at all. We slept in the same bed that night, maybe 3 inches apart. But we were galaxies away. In the morning, she kissed my cheek and said, let me know your feedback on the document. I said I would, but I never opened it again. Instead, I opened a new tab and searched for a divorce attorney. Not because I was angry. Not because I wanted revenge. But because, in that moment, I realized she wasn't negotiating love, she was reallocating resources. And I was just another asset in her portfolio. I didn't yell. I didn't break down. I didn't do any of the things a man's supposed to do when he realizes his marriage is no longer a marriage. Instead, I nodded. I told her I'd sit with it, which is what Kendra always said when she didn't want to answer a question but wanted to sound emotionally evolved. She looked pleased with that response. Told me to take my time. Said big transitions need tenderness. Then she left to go record a podcast episode about burnout or boundaries or something else she'd recently trademarked with a soft logo and soothing pastel palette. The second the door clicked shut behind her, I got to work. Not emotionally, logistically. I opened a spreadsheet. Yes, a spreadsheet. I figured if Kendra wanted to treat our marriage like a business, I'd respond like a man preparing for a quiet and irreversible acquisition. Except this time I wasn't the one getting bought out. I was pulling my stake from the table. First line, bank accounts. Second line, shared subscriptions. Third line, passwords. She didn't know I still had admin access to most of our joint platforms. She never changed the passwords, not out of trust, I think, but out of assumption. She assumed I wasn't paying attention, that I'd always be the safe harbor. The background, the stability she could lean on while she explored expansion. But I had been paying attention. Not to the words, those were just static after a while, but to the silence in between them. The way she flinched when my name popped up on her phone. The way her laugh had changed. It used to be round and unguarded. Now it was clipped like she was auditioning for someone. Over the next week, I built my escape plan quietly, piece by piece. Step 1, attorney. I found one through a friend who'd gone through his own split the year prior. A woman named Miranda, sharp as glass and just as clear. She didn't ask why. She just asked for facts. Told me what to gather. What to screenshot T. What not to say out loud. If she's already halfway out the door emotionally, Miranda said, you need to make sure you leave with your footing intact. I appreciated that. No lectures. Just logistics. Step 2, apartment. I didn't want a condo or a crash pad. I wanted something quiet. Unremarkable. I found a furnished rental about 35 minutes across town. 1 bedroom, neutral walls, nothing flashy. It smelled faintly like lemon and solitude. I signed a 3-month lease under a different email. Paid in full upfront. Step 3, evidence. Not to blow anything up. Just to have. Kendra wasn't reckless, but she wasn't subtle either. I didn't need to dig deep, the surface had enough. There were texts, most of them *TS from that second phone she didn't know I'd seen when she left it charging in the bathroom one morning. There was a coach, of course. A man named Raiden, because of course his name was Raiden, who described himself as a masculine polarity mentor. He posted shirtless selfies with captions like power attracts clarity and king energy doesn't chase, it claims. Their messages weren't graphic, but they were suggestive in a way that made it clear lines had been crossed, emotionally at the very least, and almost certainly physically during that wellness summit in Orlando she'd raved about last month. In one message he wrote, "That night reset something in you. You're not anyone's wife. You're your own woman. Never forget that." She replied, "I won't." I felt more like myself than I have in years. Still riding that high. Still riding that high. I saved the *TS. All of them. Put them in a folder marked admin files. Just in case. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Not my brother. Not my closest friends. Not even the coworker who had once confessed his wife had blindsided him with divorce papers in the middle of their kitchen remodel. I wasn't ready for advice. I just needed control. At home I acted normal. Polite. Neutral. She noticed, too. Asked me one night if something was wrong. I said, no, just trying to honor your space. Her eyes lit up like I'd passed some test. Wow. Thank you, she said, resting her hand on mine. Her touch felt like touching a mannequin's palm. Soft. Hollow. We still slept in the same bed. Still brushed teeth side by side. But it was all choreography now. I'd hand her a towel, she'd kiss my cheek. I'd ask about her content calendar, she'd ask about my sleep schedule. None of it meant anything. It was just mutual camouflage. The truth was I had already left. I'd taken back my name on certain documents. Replaced emergency contacts. Swapped out a few key passwords. Moved half our savings into a legally separated account Miranda helped me create. She told me not to move too fast, just enough to secure my portion, not so much that it triggered confrontation. I followed her advice like it was scripture. Kendra, meanwhile, was thriving. At least on the outside. Her videos were picking up traction. Her Kendra Blake method now had a waitlist. She did a live stream one night titled Shedding Old Identities, and though I wasn't watching, I could hear her through the office door. I realized, she said to the invisible crowd, that the most dangerous comfort is a life built around someone else's rhythm. You have to ask yourself, who would I be if I weren't obligated to anyone? I stared at the ceiling that night until morning. A few days later, she left again for a 3-day summit. This time in Nashville. Some gathering of entrepreneurs and spiritual advisors. Her suitcase was bigger than usual. I didn't ask why. She kissed me goodbye on the cheek, told me she'd be journaling every morning. That she'd send love from the road. I nodded, told her to be safe. Then closed the door behind her and leaned against it until I heard her car pull away. The silence afterward felt different this time. Not cold. Not sad. Just clean. That evening, I drove to the apartment I'd rented and spent the night there. No furniture aside from what came with it. A beige couch, a small bed, a dining table barely big enough for one person to eat at. It was perfect. I sat there in that hollow little space, drinking black coffee out of a paper cup and let myself feel something I hadn't let myself feel in months, relief. Not because it was over. It wasn't. Not yet. But because, for the first time in a long time, I was living in a reality I didn't have to decode. Kendra wanted clarity? This was mine. I chose a cafe with no history. Neutral territory. No anniversaries, no fond memories, no shared rituals. Just a clean, quiet place where two people could sit across from each other and end something that once mattered. I picked the table by the window. Late afternoon sun spilled across the wood grain in a way that almost made the moment feel peaceful. I sipped my coffee, black and bitter, and waited. My hands didn't shake. My chest didn't race. I felt still. Kendra arrived 12 minutes late, which was early for her. She wore that soft white sweater she always reached for when she wanted to appear grounded, cozy, approachable. She smiled when she saw me, but it was cautious, like she knew something was off but couldn't place it yet. "Hey," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "Sorry, the Uber took the long way." I nodded. "No problem." She placed her phone screen down, as usual, and folded her hands on the table. "So," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I was thinking maybe we could review the updated outline for our framework." I added a section about spiritual independence inside a partnership. I slid the manila folder across the table. She stopped mid-sentence, glancing at it like it might bite her. "What's this?" "Clarity," I said. "You've been asking for it." She didn't move. "Go ahead," I said, voice calm. "Open it." She did, slowly. Inside were two things, a cleanly stapled set of divorce papers and a small stack of printed screensh *TS text messages between her and Raiden. I watched her face. First, her eyes scanned the top sheet. Her name. My name. The legal weight of it. Then, the messages. Her lips parted, breath caught. Her face didn't crumble, not yet. She was still trying to orient herself. She set the folder down gently. Fingers still touching the edge. "Where did you get these?" she asked. "Does it matter?" Silence stretched between us like a drawstring pulled too tight. "You went through my phone." "No," I said. "You left it open." I just stopped pretending I didn't see it. Her shoulders slumped slightly, but her voice stayed composed. "It wasn't Ethan, this isn't what it looks like." "You don't have to lie," I said, sipping my coffee. "I'm not here to punish you." "I didn't sleep with him," she said quickly. "I mean, not exactly. There were moments. A couple hotel nights after the retreats. But it was more emotional than physical." I stared at her for a beat. "That's not the win you think it is." She looked down finally. She began, and then her voice broke for the first time. "I thought we were broken. You and I. I didn't know how to say it. And Raiden, he made me feel like I could breathe again. Like I had permission to grow." "And I didn't?" I asked. Her head snapped up. "That's not what I mean. It's what you said." She rubbed her temples. "This wasn't about replacing you. It was about finding me." I nodded. "And what did you find?" She was quiet. The waitress came by to refill our waters. Kendra smiled at her like everything was normal. I watched the act in real time, the effortless switch from crisis to charm. The performance was second nature by now. "I didn't plan this," she said once the waitress walked away. "I didn't sit down and decide to ruin things." "No," I said. "You just let it happen. One compromise at a time." Her eyes welled up. "You have no idea how lost I felt," she whispered. "How invisible I felt in my own house. I needed something that wasn't spreadsheets and bills and asking what's for dinner." "You wanted freedom," I said. "I get that. I wanted more. And you thought less of me would give it to you." She looked wounded by that. But she didn't deny it. I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms across my chest. "Here's the thing, Kendra. I didn't come here for an apology. I didn't come here to argue. I came to end it with dignity." She blinked. "So that's it? You're just done?" "Yes. But we can fix this," she said, voice cracking. "We're strong. We've been through so much. This is just a fracture, not a fatal wound." "You keep calling it a fracture," I said, "but I think you know better. You didn't just break trust. You replaced it. You let someone else take up the space that used to be mine. That's not something you tape together. Tears slid down her cheeks now, silent and unchecked. Ethan, please, she whispered. This doesn't have to be the end. I already left, I said. Weeks ago. I've just been waiting for you to catch up. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hands curled into fists on the table, not in anger, in desperation. She was trying to hold it together, but the mask had slipped. You want to know what the hardest part of all this is? I asked. She nodded once. You stopped being my wife long before you ever touched Raiden. You started managing me. Curating me. You didn't love me, you optimized me. She winced. I loved you, she said. I still love you. No, I said gently. You loved the version of me who stood still while you changed. But I'm done standing still. She wiped her face with the cuff of her sweater. Her voice dropped. What happens now? You read through the paperwork, I said. We work out the details. No public drama. No social media quotes. Just clean. Quiet. Like how it ended. She nodded slowly. She wasn't fighting anymore. She was folding. I stood up, slipped my phone into my jacket pocket. You okay to get home? She nodded again, eyes down. I paused. You'll be all right, I said. You're good at building new stories. She looked up at that. Her face was unreadable. And then I walked out of the cafe into the fading gold of a late Savannah afternoon, and for the first time in months, the air didn't feel so heavy. There was no epiphany. No closure music playing in the background. Just the sound of my boots on pavement. Just me walking forward. And that was enough. Kendra didn't take the divorce news well. For someone who had spent months aligning her energy and preaching about detachment, she unraveled fast once I removed the one thing she didn't see coming, my silence. She tried strategy first. That Monday, a mutual friend texted me, confused, saying Kendra had mentioned that I was struggling emotionally and needed time apart to rediscover myself. Apparently, I was going through something. That was her narrative, that I was lost, that she was giving me space. Not that she'd been caught. Not that I'd left. When that didn't work, she moved on to guilt. Late-night texts started trickling in. Paragraphs. Voice notes. Things like, I just can't believe you gave up on us so quickly. Don't 14 years mean anything to you? I was trying to grow. I thought you'd meet me there. One message just said, please. Over and over. 23 times in a row. Then came the spiritual phase, the Instagram stories with vague, melancholic quotes in a moody font. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what had value. Healing looks like silence from those you hurt. Her followers ate it up. At first. But after a while, I noticed the tone shift. People unfollowed. Engagement dropped. I heard from a friend that her latest live Q&A had ended in tears after someone asked a pointed question about authenticity. Even Raiden, the man who'd been her mirror during this awakening, disappeared from her content. Quietly. No posts, no collabs. Just gone. Meanwhile, I kept quiet. I didn't post anything. Didn't explain myself. Didn't call friends to set the record straight. I let her control the story until it crumbled under its own contradictions. The thing about curated authenticity is, people can tell when it's not real. Eventually, the messages stopped. The tags stopped. The pleas stopped. All that remained was the stillness. And in that stillness, I found something else. Peace. It didn't happen all at once. Came in pieces. Like the first weekend in my new place. Sitting on the back porch with a cup of strong coffee, and no one asking me to process an intention or discuss emotional logistics. Just silence. Real silence. Not the kind that fills a room when love is dying. The kind that makes you feel like yourself again. 8 months passed. I moved north, small house in Black Mountain, North Carolina. The kind of town where no one asks what you used to be, just what you want for breakfast. I met someone. Her name is Lila, a graphic designer who drinks black tea and laughs with her whole chest. She doesn't ask me to rise to her frequency. She just asks how my day was and actually listens to the answer. She doesn't try to fix me, optimize me, or curate our connection. She just shows up. We don't talk about marriage. Not yet. And that's fine. What we have is simple. Not in a small way, in a clean way. Real. Back in Savannah, Kendra is still posting, I'm told. New retreats. New coaches. New mottos. But something in her face has changed. You can only rebrand pain so many times before it starts to show through the filter. I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. Honestly, I hope she finds something real one day. I just know now that it won't come from a weekend seminar or a man with a microphone and a mirror. As for me, I've learned the quietest kind of healing is the most honest kind. No mantras, no contracts, just waking up in a house where I don't have to perform, just breathing and being. And that's more than enough.